Hey there, Sean Terry here, flip2freedom.com, and today we're going to talk about what is the difference maker? What is your difference maker in the business between all the other investors that sellers meet? So that's what we're going to talk about, and we have an incredible clip from Jesse Itzler, who spoke at the Extreme Freedom 2017, and it literally shockwaved everybody and really gave an amazing analogy about a brownie, which I'm going to let him talk about, but it's amazing. But if you know who Jesse Itzler is, he's a New York Times best-selling author a couple times now, wrote 2 different books. He's owner of Atlanta Hawks. Him and his wife are billionaires, has an incredible lifestyle. I love following him on Instagram. He actually created Marquee Jet, then sold it to NetJet, and he is an amazing individual, and you're going to learn a lot in this short little segment here with Jesse Itzler. So go ahead and watch it and really listen on how he became a difference maker with a brownie. Check it out.
Well, the tuition at American University right now is $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year if I went today. So for $160,000 of my parents' hard-earned money, I can tell you guys I learned one lesson. I remember one thing. I call it the $160,000 lesson. So my senior year, I was at a crossroads. I was either going to go into the music business, which I loved, or I was going to sell a product called Aunt Franny's Brownies. So I had a roommate in college who had an Aunt Franny, and every month she sent us a shipment of brownies. Man, I don't know what she put in these brownies, but they made me very happy. I'm like, I can market these things, man. So for my advertising class, for the final exam, the professor said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a fictitious brand from scratch. From scratch, soup to nuts. You have to create a slogan, a mission statement, packaging, a jingle, which I was good at, and submit this full campaign for a fake product. I'm like, all right, I'll use this class and this project as my R&D department for Aunt Franny's Brownies. If the professor likes my presentation, if I get a high mark, I'm going into the brownie business. So the way the final was structured, there were 100 kids in the class. Everyone had to put together this whole campaign, and the professor was going to pick 5 people out of a hat, 5 people that were going to have to present orally a State of the Union, 30 minutes on the State of the Union of the industry you're going in, as well as your whole campaign. I'm like, there's 100 kids in the class. I'm a senior. There's only 5 kids going to get picked. There's a 5% chance. No one prepared to do the oral presentation. So I walk into the class and the professor says, okay, we're going to do this the democratic way. Everybody write down your name, put it in a hat, and I'll pick out the 5 names of the people that will present. Well, sitting to my right in the class was a guy named Ronnie Cohn, real name. Ronnie Cohn was an asshole. Ronnie Cohn bullied me and other kids for 4 years of college. So I took 20 pieces of paper. I wrote Ronnie's name down, stuffed them into the hat. Teacher goes around, picks out the first name, opens it up. Sure enough, true story, the first name that comes out, Jesse Itzler. The jackass did the same thing. So I get up there, I start pitching my brownie story for Aunt Franny's Brownies, and 30 seconds in, for $160,000 of my parents' money, the professor says to me in the middle of my pitch, Southern guy, I forgot his name, but he says, stop. He says, son, I want to know, what is your point of differentiation? I said, oh, well, I'm a brownie. I'm home-baked. I could be gluten-free if you want me to be gluten-free. I have shiny packaging. He said, no, there's 1,000 brownies out there. Substitute them for a real estate investor, advertiser, marketer, restaurateur, whatever you're doing. There's 1,000 of them that come out every day in this country. If you want to be successful on your journey, you better have a strong point of differentiation and you better stand out. Son, if you want to be a brownie, you better be a much different brownie. Sit down. So I sat down in my chair, embarrassed in front of the whole class, and I said to myself, I'm going to go into the music business. This brownie thing isn't going to work, and I'm already have a pretty clear point of differentiation. It's 1989, and I'm a white rapper. It's just me and Vanilla Ice. Like, pretty good point of differentiation. So at that point in my life, I'd never been in a studio. I'm not a great singer. I had no contacts at all. I don't play any instruments. In fact, the only way that I could make a demo was to take an instrumental, put it in my DVD, in my CD player, my CD, put the instrumental of a CD in the CD player, go over to my answering machine, hit record on my answering machine while the instrumental was playing. Yeah, you know that style, right? Yes. That's how I made my demo. And I took that little cassette, I made copies of it, and I sent it out to every A&R executive, every music executive that I could find. And of course, I got no responses. So I flew every Friday. I took off classes on Friday, and I would drive, take the train or fly to New York City, and I would literally sit in the offices of every record label, Elektra, Warner Brothers, Universal, Select, everyone, waiting for someone to come out, and I would hand them my cassette. That didn't work. And then one day I got a call. Someone heard my raps on the answering machine and told the producer, and he calls up and he says, look, there's something here. There's something here with this music, but we got to professionalize what you're doing. I just got a job as a producer in a studio in New York, and at 2 in the morning, there are no more sessions. The next act doesn't come until 7. So if you move to New York City, I can squeeze you in kind of when no one's looking from 2 until 7. So I moved back to New York, where I'm from, Long Island. I took a job as a kiddie pool attendant. And it was the only job that started late enough at 10 o'clock in the morning that I could ride my bike every day, 21 miles on the LIE from Roslyn, Long Island to Corona, Queens to the studio, get there at 2 o'clock, record, and ride my bike directly to the kiddie pool in the morning. So one day I'm on literally the LIE, riding my bike. I get to the studio, and sitting on the mix board when I walk in is a cassette. And it's the cassette that changed my life. The cassette was by a Brooklyn hip-hop artist named Dana Dane, and it doesn't matter if you know him or not. But Dana was a hip-hop pioneer, one of my favorite artists. His first album was a huge success, and he just finished recording his second album and left it on the mix board at the session before me. I'm a huge fan, so I asked the engineer, can I borrow this cassette? Like, let me just take this home, I'll bring it back. He's like, all right, go ahead. So I took the cassette, and I flew out to LA 2 days later to visit a friend, and I'm listening to it on my Sony Walkman, not to date myself, on the plane, and I'm reading an article that the owner of Delicious Vinyl Records, Tone Loc, Young MC, this hot independent label, his favorite artist is Dana Dane. So when I landed, I cold called the label. You'll see that's a big theme in my life. Actually picking up the phone and getting someone on the phone. And I get all the way to the owner, Mike Ross's assistant. And I start saying, hey, I have a cassette of Dana's. I know Mike is a fan of Dana's, and Dana wanted Mike to hear this. And there's an old saying by Harry Truman, if you can't convince them, confuse them. She had no idea what I was talking about. She puts me on hold. She comes back a minute later, and she says, Dana, Mike is so excited to meet you. If you can be here at 2 o'clock, Mike would love to sit with you. Dana will be there at 2 o'clock. Dana's a black guy from Queens with gold teeth. Doesn't look anything like me. 2 o'clock comes, ring the buzzer for Delicious Vinyl. They said, hey, I'm here to see Mike. Oh, Dana, Mike is expecting you. Come on in. So I walk up, I go sit down in his office. Tone Loc's album's up there, Young's album's up there, there's funky candles burning, I'm sitting down. All I want to do is get my cassette played, and in walks Mike Ross, the owner of the company. And he looks at me dead in the face, stops, and he says, who in the world, not this polite, who in the world are you? I said, well, I'm Jesse, I work with Dana. And he said, you work with Dana? What do you do? I said, I'm a rapper. And he started hysterically laughing. And then he asked his assistant if Ashton Kutcher was there. He thought he was going to get punked. I'm like, no, I really do, I swear. Can I put my cassette in while we wait for Dana? He said, all right, yeah, you can put it in. So I put my cassette in, and I played my demo, and 30 seconds into this conversation, after all the train rides, the bike rides, all the rejection, he says the 4 words that every struggling artist wants to hear. Who is your lawyer? I got a record deal. But I didn't have a lawyer. I had a dad. And my dad owned a plumbing supply house in Mineola. I said, my dad's my lawyer. He said, your dad's your lawyer? I said, yeah, my dad's my lawyer. He said, all right, I'll coordinate everything with your dad. So I leave the meeting and I call my father. Now my father's from Brooklyn and he could screw this whole thing up in one set. Take advantage of my son, you record. I said, Dad, all I want you to do, man, I got a record deal. They're gonna call you. All I want you to do is say, please fax all the documents to my assistant. My father says, I don't have an assistant. I go, yes, you do. Mom. Kidding me? So they faxed all the documents to my mother. I took out my pen and I signed them on the spot. And that's how I got a record deal. And then I made the biggest mistake of my life. I took my foot off the gas pedal. I didn't reset my goals. It's very important once you hit a goal that you reevaluate where you're at and reset your goals. Now, I'm part of the Atlanta Hawks ownership group, and I can tell you guys, if you look at the journey of a kid today, any parents here today? So you guys know, or you've seen through friends or whatever, kid has a dream to become a professional athlete. Starts early on, maybe in the backyard or at the park. He says, okay, I'm going to be a professional basketball player when I grow up. He plays AAU, gets a coach, plays junior high, plays JV, plays varsity, maybe gets a college scholarship. Gets drafted into the NBA, has college draft workouts. His dream, it's about to come true. He gets drafted. He makes the team. He gets a roster spot. He's one of like 30 people out of 7 billion that gets a roster spot that year. How many of those NBA players then reset their goal and say, I want to be a 10-year veteran, a 3-time All-Star, retire with $25 million in my bank in 6 years or 10 years? None. Maybe LeBron, maybe Kobe, a handful. It's very important to rewrite your goals, and it's very important to write them down, not just say them. We'll come back to that in a minute. Well, I didn't do any of that. I hit my goal, and that was that, so I don't get picked up for a second album. So I moved back to New York City with 2 things on my resume. Kiddie pool attendant, rapper. That's not going to get you a seat at Extreme Freedom. So I love sports and I love music. And my wife always says, your purpose, you find your purpose when you figure out what it is you love, what you're good at, and what's good for the world. When you can find out what it is you like, what you're good at, and it's good for the world, you've really found your purpose. Well, for me, it was sports and music. I love both of them. So I decided that I was going to write a theme song for the New York Knicks. Anyone from New York here? All right, cool, good. 1. Me too. 2. I wrote a song for the New York Knicks. It was called Go New York Go. I was 22 years old. The Knicks paid me $4,000 for the song, theme song. By the time I was done paying the studio, the engineer, the singer, the drummer, the producer, the lawyer that I now had, it cost me $4,800 to do the song. Not a great business model. They pay you $4,000, cost you $4,800. Not a great business model. But the Knicks got hot. And the song became the #1 most requested song on New York radio. And every team that came into Madison Square Garden said, man, why don't we have a theme song? I said, you know what? That's my brownie. That's my point of differentiation. Everybody else is trying to sell their records at Tower Records, get on the radio, this and that. I'm into sports music. I just created a new category. There's no competition. There's 100 professional sports teams. I'll sell them all. I'm a good salesman. I can sell them all, $4,000. There's going to be efficiencies. I'll cut down some of the costs. This is what I'm going to do. So I wrote theme songs for professional sports teams. I sold that company to a company called SFX.
Now, that was amazing, wasn't it? So let me ask you a question. What is your difference maker? When you go in and talk to a seller and they have 100 other postcards, 100 other letters, and they've talked to 10 other people, what is going to be the difference maker for you? And I guarantee if you focus on answering that question and making that difference and basically being a different brownie than everybody else, you will have massive success because sellers have choices, especially in the market right now. And if they are able to choose you more than they choose the competition, that means you'll get more contracts. So hope you like this. Please subscribe to the video. Have any comments below. Love to hear your feedback on this. And watch out for our next videos and you'll learn some more killer stuff. Take care. God bless.